Meeting, September the 22nd, 2020. I'll take roll call and say that, the mayor and the entire town council, minus Vice President Bodine, are present. For the record, Vice President Bodine did call staff and wanted to express that she supports this expenditure. So having said that, if we will, a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice
for all.
Amen. Okay. Before we begin, I'm sure most of you and certainly me, we heard some horrific news a few minutes ago. There was a overdose in town. 4 people overdosed. So far, we don't know that. What we know is that 3 of the 4 were taken to a local hospital, and 1 was just helicoptered out by the Maryland State Police. So what I'd like to do is basically ask everybody to have a moment of prayer for these 4 individuals and their families. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. So we will begin with the subject matter being the water reclamation treatment plant chemical removal. I'll give the floor to Holly to explain what we have here.
Right. So I provided a memo to town council outlining the current urgent need to remove 5,000 gallons of methanol and 3,000 gallons of PACL from the plant. These materials were mixed in error and are hazardous and do need to be removed as soon as possible. This is not a budgeted expenditure. So our treatment plant superintendent has worked over the last several weeks to determine the best way to mitigate this chemical and take it off. And we do have 2 proposals to do that and to provide us with a certificate. Sorry, I'm just going to mute someone here real quick. To provide us with a certificate of the removal, and that totals $63,489. Our insurance carrier, Legit, will reimburse us for $10,000 of that cost. The plan at this time is to take the cost out of our current water reclamation treatment plant budget, knowing that we're going to have to come back to town council for an amendment.
Okay, I'll start some discussion, if you will, with Larry.
All kinds of questions. Just a little bit in the background for my colleagues. The 2 chemicals that we're talking about here, the PACL is polyaluminum chloride. It's a coagulant which helps bring things together as part of the treatment process. John, I'm sorry if I'm taking away anything from you. And the other is methanol, which is used in the denitrification process. Each of these chemicals by itself is somewhat hazardous, and when you mix them together, you get a potentially dangerous mixture of substances. As someone living right across the street from the treatment plant, I was very concerned to read about this. I, as always, am impressed with the steps John and the staff have already taken to address this issue. We have to clean this up. This is an issue where folks just don't have any choice here. We have to properly dispose of these chemicals. And in the way of a couple comments, one is I know John has already notified MDE and worked with them on this. At some point, I think we will need to discuss whether we can have any recourse against Coin Chemical, who delivered the chemicals. Since they are a hazardous waste transporter, if you will, they have a obligation to make sure that they are delivering the chemicals properly, and they did not. So in addition to the responsibilities that the town carries in this issue, I believe that there's some also that would fall to Coin, so we might be able to cover some of the costs from them as well. John, I'm sure if you need any help, give me a call. If you haven't already, you might want to reach out to James Ritter at the county, see if there's any assistance they can provide. If you need any help on the national level, there's a group called NACWA, the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. Adam Krantz, who's the director of that, is a personal friend of mine. I'm sure he could provide some assistance as well. So if you need anything, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Larry.
Larry.
Charlie.
Well, this topic is far outside of my area of expertise, so it's not as if I can offer anything remotely as useful as what Larry did. So if this is something that we need to do, I certainly support doing it. The only real question I would offer is, preventing it from happening in the future. And again, Larry kind of has addressed that, and I'm sure that John is planning on addressing that. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that as we go, but beyond that, I wish I had more to offer, but I really don't.
Thank you, Charlie. Greg.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I just have two comments, I think. One, following along Larry's comments there regarding the company, I guess the Coin company, that's who we purchased those chemicals from, and they were responsible for transporting them and depositing them. Is that right?
Yes, that's who I get them from. And actually, Coin subcontracted those two particular chemicals out for the bulk content. But they're still responsible that we pay Coin, and Coin has to sign, set up the deliveries and everything.
Okay, so they had actually had a subcontractor out there to deliver the chemicals for the first time. Is that right?
No, they've been delivering in bulk the whole time since the ENR set up all the larger tanks.
Okay, I'm not really sure I understand that, how their subcontractor fits into this, into the delivery part of it.
Well, Coin, I don't think they have the resources and trucks to deliver that particular chemical in that quantity. So they subcontracted out to different companies. Well, not different. Most of the companies. One company we get product from is out of New Jersey. The Paxil actually comes from out of Ohio. But we've been getting these deliveries from those companies the whole time, so we hadn't had any problem in the deliveries. But it just baffles my head how this happened.
Well, the one observation I wanted to make was that, to Larry's point about Coin being partially responsible in this, perhaps they can pay to replace the chemicals that we originally purchased. Because not only would we have to get rid of the chemicals that are improperly purchased, we have to replace the chemicals too that were purchased, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe they're able to replace those chemicals, if nothing else. My other observation was I wasn't sure about the cost sharing of the fix. And I did read the memo a couple times. I'm not sure if I would be comfortable sharing the cost of the fix with the partners. It kind of seems like that's something that we're in charge of that, and that would be something that maybe the town should foot the whole bill for whatever's involved in the cleanup and the replacement of the chemicals. We've got to have to let the partners know anyway what happened there. I think we should. And we'd be able to tell them, a partner like North Beach that doesn't have the resources like we've got, I could see where they may not want to pay for fixes. They've got a tight budget. That's really not, you understand what I'm saying? I'm thinking that the town should pay to make it right. I didn't want to get into changing procedures and things like that. I know everybody feels bad enough as it is, and there's going to be a refocus on that. Those were my observations so far.
Thank you, Greg. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. So what exactly does that $10,000 from the insurance cover as part of this?
You want to answer that, Holly?
Sure, it's going to cover the mitigation. So that would be credited towards the 63,489.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, and so I was just wondering why it covers part of this. So like the policy itself, like why is it covering $10,000 but not others?
It's a policy that we have that actually covers negligence.
Okay.
So it's pulling on that policy. We have engaged our town attorney who did put the vendor on notice of the issue, and we will be following up on that avenue as well.
Okay. Okay. And just to follow up on what Greg was asking in terms of replacement costs of the chemicals, that is not included in this current figure that has been put before the board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And then I just, not knowing how water reclamation treatment plants are run, I'm presuming that these tanks are clearly marked, like they have big letters that say methanol and PACL. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith. Derek?
Yes, thank you. So having worked with hazard materials much of my adult life, it kind of baffles me that this could have happened as well. In fact, I was going to ask the same question Keith just asked as far as markings and whatnot. I mean, how this might be, not a direct question to anyone here, but how could, frankly, a trained and licensed contractor or a staff member not realize that one chemical is going into the wrong bin when it's clearly marked? I don't understand that at all. But it kind of leads me to, I did see, protocols in place, but I suspect John and everyone else are looking at those protocols. And if there needs to be revisions to ensure something like this doesn't happen again, maybe like a 2-person operation or a verification type thing before any chemicals are deposited or something along that lines, because it does kind of baffle me how this could have happened. And I agreed with Larry's comment. I think we really should look at the contractor's liability, and especially hearing it, there was even subcontracted there. It seems like, we've been presented a mess, and a dangerous one at that, to clean up, and for no either shared liability. It seems erroneous to me. I guess the question, how long have we used this contractor for chemicals? You said since the ENR upgrade, so it's been a couple of years?
I believe we even dealt with them a little bit longer on a smaller scale. I usually go out to chemical companies each year and get the prices and everything. And so far, this chemical has been right in line with the prices. So we've been using them pretty much long.
Right, I'm sure with no issues until now. So, I mean, this happened, and I mean, we can't go back and fix that, but we can sure, prevent from happening again. Regarding the 2 quotes, I see both of them are time and materials proposals based on estimates. So how much confidence do we have in the estimates themselves and then the resulting, dollar figures? I mean, I assume we're going to be asked to vote on the one based on the estimated total, but both of them, I think, had a clause I read that if any changes to the scope or any outside or more work that needed besides what was estimated, it'll be billed in addition to. So, do we need to budget a little bit more than these estimates, or how confident are we on these estimates?
Well, I'm pretty confident. I've had a lot of talk with the chemical companies, the safety people, the two people that bid on it. And I talked to AEG, and in their proposal, they'll also send a safety guy down that will go through the whole, view the whole scene and the tanks and all, and go over all the safety issues. And then we talked about that's not in this contract is we have some room left over in the gallons, and I want to hose down the tanks and then have them suck out the rest of that water. And that's not going to be considered extra work because they'll have the volume on the tankers to do that.
Okay. Yeah, you just answered my next question. I was going to ask you, once the tanks are empty, didn't they need to be cleaned or rinsed out or something? So,
Yeah.
and that's all just rinsed out. That's it. There's no scrubbing or.
No, we'll just water them down. The methanol tank will be fine. And we can just add chemical back to that. But the two regular Paxil tanks will have to be dried out, and then all the tanks will have to be re-inspected before we can put chemical in it. But I have a safety chemical tank that easily will do that for us.
Okay. So from start of operation to filling those tanks back up with clean and the correct chemicals, how long do we think that's going to take?
Well, we can't start this operation once we get it approved till the 5th of October. And on the 5th of October, it shouldn't take them about a day or so to get all that chemical out of there. And then we'll hose it down, get it inspected, and within another week or so, we'll have it back online.
And I read you have contingencies in place to continue, while all this is going on. So that 2.5 weeks isn't going to provide you any substantial degradations of the plant operations?
No, not so far. We can keep the phosphorus going, and we're staying within limits on the nitrates and nitrogen. So we're looking pretty good so far on the parameters, the limits.
Okay. And the last comment I want to make, I agree with Greg's comment that I think, whatever the cost is, we should, as a town, we should take on the whole burden. I agree. I don't think we should share this with our partners. This was, unfortunate. It's a fortunate error in a situation, but it was a really, involved town staff, and it really wasn't attributed to anything the partners did. So I would agree. I don't think we should take this any further than our town, if that's even being considered. That's all I have. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, one follow-up comment.
Yes. Well, what I was going to say was, before I asked the council to award this contract to AEG Environmental, I was going to ask if the council has any final comments. And Larry?
Yeah, for the record, I think it's critical that the record show that even during this critical period, there have been no violations of our discharge permit. John, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I want that in the record. And finally, I just want to agree with Derek and Greg that I would not support us trying to recover any of these costs from our member communities. Thank you.
Any further comments from council before we entertain a motion?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. John, what's the value of the chemicals that are going to need to be replaced?
Well, Paxil, we usually get about 3,000 gallons of it, and that usually runs about $11,500 for the 3,000 gallons. It's about $5 and some a gallon. The methanol is just like an alcohol or on a gasoline. It's about $1.81 a gallon. So that's usually coming out to about $10,000 or so.
Well, again, if there's any negligence on their part, I certainly would expect them to replace those chemicals as a starting point. And if I missed it, I'm sorry, John. Why do we have to wait 2.5 weeks to start the cleanup?
Well, believe me, I talked to all the chemical people, the hazmat people, and the two chemicals that we're talking about, they didn't know what the properties would be when they were mixed. So it was a disposal issue, and they had to run a bunch of tests onto the chemicals and everything to see what chemical and how to dispose it, where they could dispose it. And they finally found a disposal place that could take it and dispose of it properly. And that's when they could write a quote for me. So it was a long samples and testing and everything going on until the companies could actually, because they have a lot of permits involved in hauling all this stuff. So that's part of the permit process.
I understand that. That got us to this point, but it's my understanding we have to wait 2.5 weeks in order to start the cleanup.
Yes, because they got to go in and I guess make some changes to their trucks and different things. And plus there are other schedules, I imagine, but that's what there's the soonest that they can get down to it.
Well, on that, we should be prepared with those reasons there. I would expect the partners to ask. You know, we want to be able to say we did our due diligence and did the best we could, and an expedient cleanup. That's all there. And last, the proposal for AEG. This is the proposal that is being recommended. Holly, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion from the council to award this to AEG Environmental in the amount of $63,489? Is
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Thank you, council. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to
moved.
adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And the ayes have it. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hang in there, John. Hang in there, John.
Great work, John.
We'll get it done now.
There you go, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah.